County, Lake County, northeastern Ohio. Jonathan, I'm appear to have a little bit of intermittency here on my side. We are streaming, but just so you know, my system is connecting and reconnecting, so hopefully it'll be.
Oh, is it a little bit choppy? But we are connected, you say.
Yeah.
I will check things out on my side, but the radio show must go on. The show must go on, as they say. We will sort out the tech issues. Good morning, welcome everybody. Skip, what would you like here? You want me to jump in, clear a little breathing room for you to work on tech?
No, I mean it's nothing that I can do right now. I'm just waiting for it to see if it stabilizes.
Oh,
So,
okay.
it I'm a
Expressions and stayed out late working on those issues. And I'll tell you what, I was texting with Skip and with Thomas, our sound guy, and early in the morning decided, you know what, I've got to make it happen. I've got to hop on the air and try to get the message out, get the word out to we the people of Geauga County. So yesterday ended up being a little bit of a funky show from my book. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. And today I feel that we're getting right back after it. Skip, I do see that you are moving again. You froze there for a moment. Looks looks like maybe you're having some for the issue. The revolution is the issue. For the issue. The revolution is the issue. And what that goes to is if you see a lot of really flashy things in the news, and people are really upset and anxious about topics, and it just seems like everybody's looking around like this doesn't make any sense. What happened to the world? I don't understand what's happening here. Oftentimes, there are things being done, maybe off radar, a little bit behind the scenes, that are fundamentally important that you're not supposed to be paying attention to. And there's another way of putting that. You hear, often at least on the conservative side of the aisle, as soon as you see something splashy in the news, the attention of the American audience, well, other things happen in the background. We're seeing it right now in California with Eric Swalwell. That's the man who allegedly was having an affair with a woman Chinese spy named Fang Fang. Now, everybody all over the West Coast, and actually a lot of America right now, is very focused on Eric Swalwell and, oh my gosh, what's happening there? And did he have extramarital affairs? Actually, I don't know much about the guy. Maybe he's not even married. Whatever.
He
It
is
is
married. He is married.
he is married. So, okay, thank you for that.
And
It
I'm
does
here.
sound
And
like
I'm here.
yeah, skips back again. So this guy allegedly is having all kinds of had an opportunity to see a guy that goes by the handle the gentleman thief. This is a guy that grew up on the streets of New York as a pickpocket, and he got very good at it. He got very, very good at it. Pardon me. And his whole thing was you distract people. If you distract their mind, you can get away with anything. And one of the things that this guy did, he had like this amazing display. It was a huge audience in a theater, and he called this person up who happened to be wearing a white dress shirt, a man in a white dress shirt, and he had a really nice pen in his shirt pocket. And this gentleman thief was talking about how he was going to remove that pen. He was going to take it before all of our eyes. He said, everybody focus on that pen and yell out, tell me when I've stolen the pen from his pocket. And he started talking and distracting the human mind that he drew all of our attention away while he stole it. Distracting the human mind that he drew all of our attention away while he stole it. That was a great life lesson, and that is a lot of what happens in the media. So, as we have spent years fighting and battling against all kinds of things like race baiting in schools, some pornography that has been found, and it's just endless. The nonsensical discussion we have putting up clearly pornographic material in front of people and then having them deny it. And we all get bogged down and caught up with this stuff. And then there's splashy news articles about somebody trying to propose a bill that that does a better job, supposedly, of banning pornography in schools or whatever. My point is, there are frequently things happening behind the scenes in places like Columbus, Ohio, Washington, D.C., and a little building over on Ravenwood Drive in the middle of Geauga County. There are people that love to rubber stamp, shuffle money around, pass legislation, hand money off to people, okay big construction projects. And as long as we, the people, aren't looking at it, they get away with it. So that's the topic that I wanted to bring in today. Skip and I hadn't actually firmed up that topic, but he's been grappling with some tech issues. Skip, are you there? You have solid internet now.
I don't know how solid it is, but I think it's here. I'm actually looking at Starlink right now, replacing my Verizon service, which has some latency and intermittency issues with it. So I'm actually looking at Elon Musk's Starlink product. It's actually pretty cost effective and supposedly very stable. So I'm going to be ordering that here shortly. Hopefully that'll fix a lot of my problems. And you get pretty high speed internet with satellite. But anyway, on your topic, actually, the topic is a good one. Having gone to the Planning Commission meeting yesterday and being a part of what's happening internally and challenging some of what goes on inside, the Planning Commission's pretty mundane, routine kind of stuff. We were considering some zoning wording changes in Chesterland, and which actually got denied because they didn't follow the proper procedure. But oftentimes, when you're watching government on the inside, some of what you're saying is absolutely true. Go to a county commissioner meeting, go to a township trustee meeting, and listen as they read off resolutions, which are meaningless to the majority of the citizens. They don't mean anything.
Right.
It's a paragraph that says we're going to give $1 million to the water department to do some improvement, and then that's all they say. They vote yes. They make a motion to approve. They second the motion. They vote and they approve it. What they just spent $1 million on is completely a mystery to everybody that's watching and listening. I used to try when I was a commissioner to actually explain some of that stuff so the citizens, and I got beat up by my fellow commissioners because it took too long in the meetings, and in some cases the people that if it was the prosecutor's office, he didn't want people to talk about what he was doing, or some other offices. I don't want to just beat up on the prosecutor. But many offices don't like it. So I was told that I was showboating because I was trying to explain to people what was going on.
Oh my gosh.
And
What a
so,
ridiculous allegation.
it was an interesting thing, but oftentimes that goes on, and sometimes innocently because public offices just want to get through their business. And if they spent, a half an hour on every topic, they, go to a school board meeting, they've got so many agenda items that if they dwelled on any of them too long, then it would take forever for the meeting. And so I understand what the issue is, and it is a complex situation. I see we're coming up on a break. I do want to bring this up because it's
Oh yeah,
related.
actually, I almost missed that. We'll see you on the other side of the break. Thanks, everybody.
Not sure, but it looks like.
Well, I'm not hearing from Thomas, but I know that enough time has gone by that our mics are off. We ended up setting up a little bit differently this morning, or I did. So on Skip's side and on my side, we've had some strange, glitchy tech issues with the show this morning, but that's all right. We are off and running, and that's the important thing. We're getting out the voice of Geauga. That's the mission. So I actually set it up in a way where I was not able to see that the timer for our breaks. Thanks for catching that, Skip. As you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, am I missing something? And was looking for it. So I'm glad you caught that. We would have rolled right into the break.
So let me, to the people that are listening to this program, we're getting ready to put out the third edition of the Voice of Geauga newspaper. And I had a meeting last night with a group of people. We're trying to figure out how we're going to make it a sustainable enterprise. And so I had a couple of people over last night. We were talking about from a business standpoint, because once the campaigning season is over with, a lot of our funding goes away because we fund the paper by advertising, and a lot of that advertising right now is political. And so if you are a person that's listening to this program and you want to be a part of the citizen reporters, you want to write articles, stories. Right now we're getting a bad beat because we're being told that we're all political, but we're in a political season. Look at the Maple Leaf, look at the Chagrin Valley Times. We want to go to where the content is not all political.
30 seconds.
But we need people, writers, who can go to meetings, and we're looking at a business model whereby we can pay people to do that. We need people to promote advertising and that kind of stuff. So
10 seconds.
if you're listening to this program, reach out to us, Voice of Geauga.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Clayton and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. I want to pause to recognize the sponsors of this show. We've got the Chardon VFW, Middlefield VFW, the Chardon and Newberry American Legion, and Red EFT, the arborists. Those are the people that will help you with the trees and bushes. And these are not just the tree trimmers. These are the guys, these are the people that know about trees and plants. Call 440-850-4968 and talk to Red EFT today to help with your yard and landscaping.
So let me
continue.
Let me continue though, Jonathan. And I'm gonna. We were talking on the break to the folks that are plugged into Rumble and so on and so forth. And I was commenting on the fact that our third edition of the Voice of Geauga newspaper is coming out. While this program is a conservative radio talk show, and we have a leaning, the newspaper, our objective is to keep it as balanced as we can. We do all have some, leanings, if you will, but we're going to try and keep it as balanced as possible. We're in a political season, so a lot of the content is political. Getting outside of this political season that we're in, we're going to be aiming at being more community oriented or more news oriented, but we need people to help us to do that. So if you're listening to this program and you're in Geauga County and you want to be a citizen journalist, we ask that you reach out to us at voiceofgeauga.com. If you want to help sell advertising, we fund the paper by advertising. And by the way, we have other things coming. So right now we have a radio talk show and we have a newspaper, but we have some other things planned, and we're going to need some help with because they're funded by advertising also and by a subscription. So the upcoming tools are going to be subscription oriented. And so if you want to be a part of that, reach out to us at voiceofgeauga.com. And we can talk about that because we need people.
Well, actually, Skip, that's voiceofgeauga at gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Yeah, thank you. Voiceofgeauga at gmail.com. And so just reach out to us. So anyway, we were talking about the distraction. It's funny that you should mention a magician, because I just went to a magician show on Saturday night. And it was absolutely hilarious because psychologically, it's easy to get distracted by a person who wants to do that. So this magician actually had a tray with a glass on it, and he threw a napkin over top of it. And he was getting us to focus on the napkin on the glass, and he grabbed that napkin and he pulled it off of the glass as he pulled the board away, and it looked like he was holding the glass underneath the napkin, and then all of a sudden he whipped the napkin and there was no glass underneath of it. So it was like the glass disappeared, and we were all watching that and we all applauded because it was so phenomenal. And then he holds up the board and the board's got the glass glued to it. So while we were watching the napkin, he was pulling the tray away with the glass glued to it. We didn't see that part. And so psychologically, we were all, and he was just making a joke. That was part of the comedy routine, because he fooled us psychologically and got us to focus on the napkin. That's what some in politics do. And
I think
so,
he has a future in politics or news media.
oh, he was absolutely entertaining and hilarious. I'm actually going to invite him on this program because he's very entertaining in addition to being a great magician and comedian. He's a comedian, got us all laughing. But on a more serious note, related to the topic, you can go look up House Bill 609. So there was a gentleman, Representative Brennan and Classburn and Johnson and William, I guess it's Willen. Oh, I guess it's Willen Johnson. I don't know. Anyway, they're sponsoring legislation, and the legislation is going to require a public body to allow for public commentary. Today, public bodies don't have to allow public commentary. Many do. Many constrain that commentary. Right now, the county commissioners allow a 3-minute comment, but then they limit how many people can comment. We're paying them to be there to do a job, and but they feel like they don't want to spend more than 30 minutes or 15 minutes hearing from their citizenry, the people that elected them and the people that they're responsible to. And people yesterday again were commenting on both taxes and on NOACA. But the commissioners didn't want to hear from the citizens, so they cut us off after 3 or 4 speakers. But this particular legislation, which I am in favor of, would require public bodies to allow for public commentary. I think that's fantastic. We ought to all call down to Sarah Fowler, Steve Demetrio, Sandy O'Brien, our state senator, and ask them to support this particular legislation. And so
I'm all for it. But
that
hey, Skip, I've got an idea.
sure.
Let me interject something. You were talking about your time when you served as commissioner, and people didn't like the fact that you were making effort to be clear with the public about what these bills, what these things that were being passed by the Geauga County Commissioners actually meant. And there is some value to the argument that that was a big chunk of time. And not that I think anybody in Geauga County would have a problem with the commissioners staying there a little bit longer to take the initiative and make the effort to explain to us what these things are that are being passed. Because you're right, oftentimes there are these $1 million deals or a couple of million here or 2 million there, and we don't really understand what it's about. But what if there were some effort made on the part of the county to post these things and make it transparent? We all talk about transparent government, and we'd love to have the news and information out there. Hey, next week on Tuesday morning's agenda for the county commissioners, there's this budget issue and maybe an outline of the thing. And my mind immediately goes to 2 people that I'm a big fan of in the commissioner's office, Mark Jameson and Amy Bevan. Or excuse me, I think she pronounces her name Bevan. Amy Bevan. I watch what they do, and these are 2 people that get out there and make concerted effort to bring together and communicate well at the county level. I'm not trying to put more work on their plate, but maybe more people, maybe Mark and Amy, or more people like them at the county level could step into the fray and help communicate to the Geogans. We need to know. We should know. We should have access to this information, and it should not be nearly as cloudy and murky as it is. But actually, while I'm on the topic, in particular, Mark Jameson and Amy Bevan, my experiences with them and watching their actions speak to an effort to be clear and transparent, to bring together the townships and work on behalf of the people. And sort of connected to that, I have a question. So this is kind of two-part question for you, Skip. What's your experience been, and what are the roles that those people fill and people like them in and around the commissioner's office? And connected to that, I know over the last year-ish, we've had a number of directors who have left. And what is it that's happening that's leading to bad communication, that's leading good people to leave the commissioner's office or to leave local county offices?
Well, people leave for a whole variety of personal reasons, so it's hard to really assess that. But And
I plan to bring that back up again, maybe with Tim Lennon on as well,
I'm
because Tim
back
is.
if you can hear me.
Oh, yep,
I
now I can hear you.
gave the whole explanation. I can't.
Oh my gosh,
We've got a yeah. I'm being told by my system that the internet is unstable,
uh-oh.
and so we've got about a minute and 43 minutes, so I won't be able to answer the question. So do me a favor. I'm going to start answering that question, and then on the other side of the break, I can complete that. But the
Cliffhanger.
answer is not. It's a bit complicated, but there is a lot of complication, and you've seen it in the press. I'm not going to say anything that the people in Geauga County aren't familiar with. If you see the battles that happen between the auditor and our probate court, for example, and the problem is you see the battle in the paper. The paper loves to create all the emotion, but they never follow up and see the results. So, for example,
Hmm.
the county auditor was
Or voiceofgeauga.com. Or voiceofgeauga.com. And I do see that we've got some comments. I know Skip is working on answering my question. We'll get to that and maybe some of the Rumble comments on the other side of the break.
Mics are off. Mics are off.
well, I'm
All
back.
right.
Can you hear
Thanks
me?
for the all clear. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
I can see you moving and I can hear you. That's usually my first indication of it because I can see you get frozen. Um, I don't know. It's the weather, something.
It's
I
very
had troubles
frustrating
this
for me
morning.
because I have no control over it. It's just an internet thing. So Verizon's just being unstable today.
Hmm.
It's very. That's the reason I'm going to get Starlink. We have a comment actually in I think it was on Facebook that somebody got Starlink and they said it was amazing and they loved it. So I'm going to convert. It's not. It's about the same price as Verizon, but based on my homework, it's much more stable.
Well, so I want to ask for some more here. We have one concrete has commented, Bevan doesn't want public comment any more than Breaky. Body language speaks loudly. I don't know that I agree with that. I've been up there a couple of times, and for me, I'm like everybody else. It always seems nerve-wracking. You go up there, you instantly have that pressure feeling of like, I have 3 minutes and I have so much I want to say. It feels all crystal clear until the moment you step up to that mic, and I'm like, oh no, the nerves set in, and my brain is like, all right, how do I quickly say all the things that I want to say? By the way, I do recommend going up even just with a couple of bullet points to help your brain refocus once you are given the mic. But there have been several times where I've seen the opposite, where I seem to get a very encouraging feedback. I've had Commissioner Spitaleri and Amy Bevan and is it Mark Jameson? Who's the guy that what's his title? The
He's
guy
the
that works in
he's the
finance.
oh no
Who's the
that's Gordon.
uh,
Um,
who,
I've got mental cramp, but
that's all right. I think we're talking about the same guy. He seemed there are several people in there. Included seemed very friendly and approachable. I
mhm.
had several questions on the budget report. I don't know, what was that a couple of months ago? And he was, polite and smiling and looking me in the eyes and very responsive. I love to see that. These are people that we elect to office to represent our interests. And the ones up there that just, I don't know, they just spend an hour doodling on a sketchbook and making a wry sneer at the audience. I have no patience for that.
Yeah,
They're getting
we're an annoyance to Jim Dvorak and Carolyn Brickey.
That's the impression
They
that I get,
mhm.
and I don't know. Maybe if they're maybe it's that they a now age old left versus right thing. Maybe if people go up there and say, I think you should spend infinite money on anything and just pass through rubber stamp everything, and we should all have new county buildings every 3 years at $550 million, and just keep spending. Spend as much as you want as long as you get in front of a camera and cut the ribbon. I think maybe Breaky and Dvorak would smile warmly at them. and then maybe some of the people like Commissioner Spitaleri and maybe Amy or people, Amy Bevan, maybe they may get a
30
questioning look
seconds, 30
from
seconds.
them. So maybe it has to do with the content, because when people actually get up there and advocate for smaller conservative government, maybe rein in spending and not outpace the tax revenue, maybe that's what
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just told that that NOACA has a commercial right now on the radio station. So,
Welcome back to
so
Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, myself, Jonathan Broadbent. We were just on break, walking through a bunch of things having to do with the Geauga County Commissioner's Office, and I was asking for some clarification on the various roles there.
So,
Back to you, Skip.
Jonathan, I have to jump in here because this is actually very funny. We got a comment on Rumble that NOACA has their commercial right now on the radio station. So I'm assuming on a radio station, and NOACA has gotten it. NOACA knows that this program is being listened to, and it's being listened to by everybody. And hang on. It's
I think NOACA could easily hijack us. Let's
no. Let me finish, Jonathan, because this is a good point. So they've figured out that this program is so popular that now they're going to choose our program. So the other elected officials who shy away from this program should get the message from NOACA. If you want to get listened to in Geauga County, come on the Voice of Geauga, because everybody's listening to us.
Here, even the people that we have some concerns about. We will treat you politely and professionally. But so, as to the functioning and the infrastructure of the commissioner's office, there is a lot that passes through there and needs the eyes of the commissioners. And under a better world, that would be visible to the public, at least in a way that some of us who have the motivation to dig in and figure out what they're doing and why they're passing things, and things like the ADP in the county auditor's budget. Why do they have 3 different pools of money to pull from? All those kinds of things. The more transparent, the more we have government of, by, and for the people.
And think about it, Jonathan. The commissioner's office is somewhat transparent. You can go in, you can comment, you can see what they're doing, you can ask them questions. You can't do that in the auditor's office. He doesn't hold public meetings. He goes to public meetings. The prosecutor doesn't have public meetings. Many of the offices in the county don't hold public meetings. So transparency is really not something they have to deal with.
That's a fair point, but just focusing for now, because it's, to me at least, and I think to a lot of people, including our listening audience, it's at least somewhat accessible to think about the commissioners meeting, because these are the people, a lot of the key decisions that have to do with our county and how it operates and what we spend money on and tax revenue and all those kinds of things pass through the commissioner's office. It can seem a little confusing. Who does what and what are their roles? And to your point, Skip, I'm not sure that I don't disagree. There's a little bit of transparency in that there's a meeting and people can go and sit and listen. But here's the thing, and we all know it. For heaven's sakes, I've spent decades working in finance. Finance is loaded with all kinds of opaque terminology, strange terms, and references to weird things like basis points that nobody understands. I actually do a lot with basis points. But these things confuse the public instantly. And if you have something that's an agenda item and all you have is an item there, and it works the same with these bills that pass in the Ohio legislature and in Washington, D.C. There's some bill that's 7,000 pages long, and it's got some title like Inflation Reduction Act or something, and all of a sudden it shows up, and we, the people, have maybe 5 minutes of exposure to it, and suddenly everybody's voting on it. Wouldn't it be a better world if those kinds of things were made visible and accessible to the public before the meeting? Not just a title as like agenda item 18 on the list for next Tuesday, but show us the actual thing that's going to be worked on and voted on. Does that make sense? Wouldn't that be a better solution?
Absolutely. I mean, you touched on something in terms of providing more content as they send out an agenda. Keep in mind that the commissioner's agenda doesn't get finalized and sent out until the day before, and sometimes
Mm,
hours before the meeting. And it's got, these brief little paragraphs. Now, their response is you can make a public information request, which you can, but then it has to go to the prosecutor's office. And 2 months later, after the event has already occurred and you really don't have any chance to provide input, you finally get the public information request. So
oh boy,
we used to
that's not
respond
good.
quickly. When I was a commissioner, we responded very quickly to public information requests. Sometimes we passed it through the prosecutor if it looked complicated. But if it was a straightforward thing, we didn't mess around with that. Dave Lair, our county administrator at that time, he's a fantastic guy. I still have a lot of respect for him. He and I had moments where we disagreed with each other, which is okay, but he's fantastic, and he always did a great job. I think a lot of Amy, her problem, and the assistant administrator's problem right now is that they have to work under some folks that are, I think, resistant to public transparency. As much as they run and
Mm,
campaign on public transparency, they're not so much actively supporting transparency. But
well, that's not good.
no, and it is the angst oftentimes that causes people, the frustration that causes people to leave public office. Good people, because they just get frustrated with the back and forth and the angst that gets created within the public office. Tim Lennon was so frustrated. I mean, you look at what the auditor did to Metzenbaum. Metzenbaum, they wanted to tax public property, and they didn't let it go. So they pursued it. Then they appealed. When the auditor said, "No, don't do that. Stop it," they had to they appealed that. And keep in mind what the press does, because the press kind of aids and abets this.
Yep.
They take the emotional event and they publish that, which creates this big stir in the paper, and everybody looks at the situation and decides who to side with. So they're all siding with somebody. And then, but when it gets decided, like with the Metzenbaum situation, the state auditor said, no, you can't do that to Chuck Walder. You can't tax a public property. And so stop it. And so I've got that letter. I know exactly what that letter says. But did the paper follow up and say, oh, this was the auditor was found to be wrong? And so, follow
Mm,
up so that the public knows what the outcome? No. Did the public know when Tim Grendel's bills weren't being paid? They knew all the emotion around that, and they made Tim Grendel look like a bad guy. But did the press come back then when the state said, no, auditor, you have to pay his bills? He's a elected official. He's following a proper process. You have to pay his bills. Did the press come back now and clean that up and say, oh, the state auditor sided with Tim Grendel? No, they didn't. And so that's the unfortunate thing. The way that our system kind of works is not helping the citizenry to really follow and understand what's really going on, and that's a problem, and it creates a lot of stress for the public officials that have to try and work through that. The commissioner's office was having to work through a situation and arbitrate between a public body, which they are responsible to work with, the probate court, and the auditor, who they're responsible to work with, and the prosecutor's office, and all these other offices who may disagree, and then there's this angst that gets created because they're not working on the same team, working
well,
from the
that
same
Skip,
playbook.
that touches on part two of the question that I was asking earlier. I'm getting the sense that a lot of public officials, directors of various offices at the county level, have gotten fed up and just left. And personally, I'm very I'm what's the word that I want? Remorseful. I'm upset that we lost Tim Lennon as a county commissioner. I think that he was in and doing very good things and working well on behalf of we the people of Geauga. But Tim Lennon is far from the only one. There's a long list of people now that I'm getting the sense have gotten fed up with the abuse and dysfunction in the county administration building and have left. And I guess my point was kind of twofold. I want to delve into the way that that office functions, who does what are the interactions, where are those friction points, and how do we best address them so that we don't continue to lose good top tier talent?
Well, you've got to elect good people. You've got to elect people who want the system to work correctly internally, and they don't want battles and fights, and all that. And Tim was just wanting to get the job done. I mean, this whole thing with the courthouse. I'm going to come back to this because it's a hot button issue for me. I really think they made a mistake in building the courthouse the way that they did. I mean, it's a beautiful building. The courts or the judges are going to love it because it's brand new. And so, but think of what that did to Chardon. And the Chardon leaders, I'm sorry, if you're listening to this program, geez, what were you thinking? That city of Chardon could be a beautiful city that has a normal um, operating approach where it's a city that's got 8 to 10 o'clock at night kind of businesses, and it's vibrant, and it's got restaurants, and it's got shops and all that kind of stuff downtown. As it is, it's a government complex. That's all it is. And so the government complex operates between 8 and 4, and everybody goes home, and that's it. And there's no weekends because the government doesn't work on weekends. And so, and the taxpayers have to fund everything. The taxpayers have to fund modernizing now the annex and the opera house and all these old buildings that we currently reside in. After they just spent tens of millions of dollars, I don't know, $30 million or $20 million, whatever it was, to modernize the courthouse. And so not only are we going to bear the cost for the courthouse, we have to bear the cost to modernize all the other buildings in downtown Chardon. That could have been private money. And I was just talking to a developer last night, and he said we'd have loved to gone downtown Chardon and invested money in modernizing those buildings and creating a modern downtown area. Now, the city of Chardon could have had two sources of money, tax money, both the government offices, which are there, and all the employees in
Skip,
the
we're coming
campus.
up on a break. Unfortunately, we need to pause right
All
here.
right.
Remember, you can join the conversation at 440-946-9468. More on the other side of the break.
Mic off, mic off.
All right, so there's a good comment. I want to see if we can get this in the last segment here. Gardens of CH asks, other than public comment at commissioners' meetings, how do citizens have a voice? Seems like commissioners rubber stamp anything and everything spending. Citizens speak out after the fact. And that's a frustrating and often true statement.
Yeah, I mean,
Or if it,
the only voice they have is they can write editorials in the paper. And by the way, on that said, if anybody's listening to this program, send me some editorials. If you have a strong opinion on something, you want to comment on the commissioner meetings or any individual, even Jonathan and me, if you don't like what we're saying, write an editorial and put it in our paper. You've got until the end of the week.
yeah,
Yeah.
I every once in a while I tune in on mostly Facebook on Voice of Geauga and see what people are saying. Every once in a while we'll post something like I don't know, in the courthouse or whatever, and somebody chimes in, "This paper is rubbish. I hate the paper," and I'm like every time I'm like, "What specifically is the issue?" Some woman called it your little paper. No, I was like, "E- what? What? Okay, is it inaccurate? Is there what specifically? But it's pure emotion. I've not seen a single specific complaint.
30
Like
seconds, 30 seconds.
I'm waiting for the first person to show up, and it'll be an interesting minor miracle. And somebody says, I disagree with that article because you mentioned this, and I think that these facts differ." They don't do that. They're just like, I feel the paper makes me feel
10
yucky.
seconds, 10 seconds.
Welcome back to Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool and myself, Jonathan Broadbent. Before we were interrupted, Skip, you were using the Chardon Courthouse as an example.
Yes,
Back to you.
I was just talking about the fact that it could have been, and we are where we are at this point in time, so it's kind of late. Although not necessarily. I have an idea for that, but right now there's work sessions to talk about modernizing now the what is referred to the Opera House and the annex, which are across the street from the courthouse. Those the city buildings downtown. So the whole downtown area is government buildings, and that's a shame for Chardon, for the citizens of Chardon, because their tax dollars now are being used to support that city, where it could be private money. And I know
Hmm.
I've talked to multiple developers who would love to have had the opportunity to go downtown, invest money, to make money, and it would have made city of Chardon a city where it wasn't just a government complex. But now we've paid a bunch of money for the Ravenwood court, or the county commissioner's office, and it's a beautiful building, and I actually like it. I'd have done it differently had I been involved, but and the courthouse is done, and we spent, I don't know, $20 million, $25 million. I'm going to make a public information request and find out how much we spent there. But now we're going to be spending another probably $30 million to modernize. I mean, it's $400,000 just to modernize the prosecutor's office. And I understand, this is a rumor, but I understand the auditor was going to ask for $1 million, but he's in an election, so he didn't come and ask for that yet. So there's going to be multiple millions
Good
of
grief.
dollars to modernize 1890s buildings. Those buildings, and I've been in the basement, I've been in those buildings, they're really bad shape. Private companies would have come in there and taken on that burden of modernizing those, and so taxpayers wouldn't have had to pay for that. And they would
Yeah,
have been a revenue source for taxpayers versus a drain on taxpayers. And so,
good
it's a
point.
shame that we've got government people who make these kind of decisions because they just don't have the idea of a business concept and understand capitalism and free enterprise. And spending other people's money is so easy for government people. I see that all the time. And sitting on the boards that I sit on and everything, I resist that to the extent that I can. You got to have good judgment on spending money on things. I mean, recently on the Metropolitan Housing Authority, we decided to have our own guys cut the grass rather than contract that out because it costs more money. And we can get it done quicker. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons for doing things in house versus contracting it out. So, but government's complicated, and you have temporary employees. Think about this: when you elect somebody, they're elected for 4 years. They're a temporary employee, but they make decisions that have long-term impacts.
Yep.
And so, you want to elect the right people, people with good judgment, people with good experience. I mean, look at Steve Olowich, for example, and his background. I mean, he's got a tremendous
Yeah.
background, and his experience in managing people, managing large budgets, and dealing with complex problems and solving them. He's demonstrated over many decades, and he's got the ethics and and all
The
that.
the the
That
courage to actually care.
yeah,
The
and so he's one of those kinds of people I would say would be a good source. But if you look at his resume, you'll see in his resume why he's qualified. Other people just run as it's a PR thing. They really
Yeah,
don't
we
have the
see that.
background. So
We say that all over the place, including school boards. You routinely have people elected to school board just because it's whatever, say your old classmate or college buddy or whatever, name recognition. And people are not paying attention to the skills, capabilities, quality, and characteristics of the people that we're electing into many of these positions. But Skip, your comment brings up a good comment in Rumble from Gardens of CH. Other than public comment in commissioners' meetings, excuse me, other than public comment at commissioners' meetings, how do citizens have a voice? It seems like commissioners rubber stamp anything and everything spending. Citizens speak out after the fact, or as we were illustrating earlier, you have moments to react because suddenly you walk in the door and you're presented with the agenda that was printed that morning. You read through the agenda, and there are line items on there that get voted on and rubber stamped, many of them having to do with spending our tax dollars. And you have literally no time to do any research and figure out what it is. That robs us of our voice. We're the ones that are paying the bill. We're writing the checks. We should be given the opportunity to see what these things are ahead of time.
Absolutely. I'm in full agreement on that. There should be an opportunity for every line item on the agenda to have a more detailed explanation, maybe posted online. So if people want to read it, right now, as I brought up that House bill that is being considered, that entire House bill is posted on the legislative agenda down in the State House. You can read every
Yep.
gory detail. Some of those are 1,000 pages long, but if you want to sit there and read the entire thing, you can. And so I don't know why it wouldn't be possible to have more detail posted someplace on agenda items so that if people wanted to take the time, I mean, some of it's pretty mundane, routine kind of stuff. You're paying the bills at the water department. So who wants to get into that? But if the water department is having to, um, put in some new whiz bang thingamajig and it's going to cost $1 million, people might want to know what that $1 million thing is. And so I bring up the water department because Nick Goris yesterday said that he was listening to our program, and anytime we listen to the water department, mention the water department, he wanted to come listen to find out what it was we said. So there you go, Nick. You can come listen to our program and in more
Well,
detail.
that makes sense.
So.
It sounds like he's attentive and doing his job. He's looking out for the interests of the department that he runs.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to pause and pivot and get a very important message out to our listening audience. It has come to our attention that a fake slate card has been mailed into Geauga County. I have no idea how many people received it, but it looks like most or many people in Geauga County have received yet another fake postcard full of all sorts of disinformation and bad stuff from an organization calling itself Ohioans for Responsible Government, which is a misnomer if I've ever seen one. These are bad actors pitching lies and putting grainy, bad, gritty looking postcards. They're pumping our county full of them, hoping to confuse and misdirect our voting public in Geauga County. We're looking into this organization because yours truly, Skip Claypool, myself, Steve Olowich, Ralph Spitaleri, have been the subject of this organization, this group, Ohioans for Responsible Government, they call themselves. We have some leads on some of the people that we believe are involved in this debacle. It's my understanding that the Republican Party of Geauga County will be releasing a statement, if they haven't already, uh, dismissing this and informing the public that this is not from the Republican Party. This is an outside group printing in, I think Skip figured out the printer is in Cleveland. They're mailing out of an address in Willoughby. They can't, for heaven's sakes, they don't even know how to spell Geauga. Read the postcard, misspells the word Geauga. This is a clear indication these are not people in or who care about Geauga County. They just want to pump postcards into our county, trying to misdirect our voters. Please help spread the word. You can find all sorts of posts. You can see what the image looks like of the postcard on Voice of Geauga and other places. Help spread the word. That is fake. That is not a real slate card.
And by the way, to the cowards that do these cards, and I consider them cowards because they hide behind the name Ohioans for Responsible Government. But I filed a complaint yesterday with the Election Commission. That card is illegal in a number of different ways. I have little regard for the Election Commission because they really don't have any teeth. But I filed a complaint because it's the first step in going toward a lawsuit. And so if you're listening and you're part of that effort, be on notice.
We have 15 seconds, Skip.
Be on notice. And so we're coming up on the end of the program. But the Republican Party in Geauga County does not endorse in a primary. Everybody should know that. So with that said, we can end the program.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Have a great day.